This is the Demia Avery Show, hosted by Demia Avery, where some of your favorite entertainers, celebs, and entrepreneurs come to highlight all of their many talents.
Hello, everyone. This is Demia Avery with the Demia Avery Show. And listen, we have a great guest for you today. I have a major introduction because I could not keep it into this small little compact thing. So I want to go ahead and introduce a great lady here. So today's guest is the true definition of a powerhouse. She's a proud second generation Cape Verdean, a recipient of the President's Lifetime Achievement Award, and a woman whose resume reads like an inspirational novel. But trust me, you want to hear it straight from her. From music executive to media mogul, educator to author, and advocate to award-winning SheEO, Amelia Moore, better known as Amelia is Moore, has spent over 25 years shaping culture, empowering women, and lifting up the next generation. Whether she's writing cover stories for major magazines, hosting her TV shows, or consulting corporations on diversity with her groundbreaking book, SheEO versus CEO, Amelia does it all with purpose, power, and presence. She's been honored by the White House, recognized by the United Nations, and has a heart that beats for community, especially for our youth. Today, we're diving into her journey, her mission, and what's next for a woman who's always evolving, always elevating, and always doing more. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and entertained because Amelia is more. She is in the building. Welcome.
Wow, that is real. Wow. I'm gonna have you write my bio. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, your journey is absolutely amazing and it's admirable, from record executive to CEO and everything in between. If you had to describe your path in 3 words, what would it be?
3 words. I, you know, I had a discussion with my son yesterday, and it was really funny. And I equate life to like a roller coaster. You know what I mean? It's like you've got those moments of anticipation and fear, and oh my gosh, what's this going to be like? And then all of a sudden, you've got those moments of wee, and it's all great and glory. You know what I mean? And then you're
Yeah.
back to the uh-oh. I feel like life is very much so like that. So just enjoy the ride. And for me, I don't fear. I love God. So that's the only person I fear. That's the only thing I fear. To me, fear means face everything and rise. And as
Mm.
long as you don't live in the world of denial and you're always seeking your own truth as well as truth of others, you'll be all right. And it'll definitely be that roller coaster because sometimes some truths, yeesh, you know what?
Yeah.
But once you know it and it's already expressed and everybody understands it, then you're back into enjoying life again because you're not living a lie. So I think that would be it's a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. Now, as a
That's my
proud
keyword.
second generation Cape Verdean, how has your heritage influenced your career?
Oh my God. My heritage is everything to me. So
Mm.
I was born in Queens, New York, and my father and mother are second generation Cape Verdean, first generation Cape Verdean because my grandparents were born there. My parents were born here. I'm second generation because I was born here.
Okay.
Our family's now up to 5 generations, so we're very proud of that. And, right now with immigration being questioned, it's like, wow, this country and why people come here should be for the beauty of this country. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be to milk it. So I learned my heritage taught me community. My heritage taught me connectivity. My heritage, because, the Cape Islands is off of the west coast of Africa, right?
Yeah.
And this year we're celebrating this week, as a matter of fact. That's why I'm in New England, in New Bedford, Massachusetts, because that is like the pinnacle place for Cape Verdean culture. You know,
Okay.
it was so funny because of the 50th anniversary, there was this viral message that said the top 10 cities, and we were number 7. And I was so excited to see our small little town of 100,000 people rank as one of the most impacted, Cape Verdean communities. That says a
Yeah.
lot, right?
Right.
So when I was about 7, my father was like, "No, I like the education in Massachusetts and I want my daughter to know her heritage." And my mother agreed, and we were shipped to New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Mm.
And, you know, because of prior to 1975, when I was as a young girl, you're studying geography, and I know my grandparents are from the Cape Verdean Islands, but it was never on the map. And
Yeah.
then when 1975 we got our independence, boom, it was on all the commercial maps. And I was like, huh, what is this? And that's
Yeah.
how I learned the tricks of politics.
Mm.
Because we were a colony of Portugal, and they deemed that we weren't important. We weren't on the map, even though we were existing. How do you do that? How do you
Right.
cancel out a whole civilization? How do you cancel out a whole group of people just because you have control of it? So that was one aspect. The other aspect is, because they were off the west coast of Africa, all of the countries, sailors would stop there to, replenish water, salt, and all of that before they came to the America. So our
Hmm.
blood is mixed with everything.
Yeah.
So I have cousins that got green eyes and real straight hair and really light skinned, and then I have cousins that are darker than me. So I
Mm.
didn't see color until I went to college. So that's
Okay.
another thing. Because how
Hmm.
could you hate something that's your first blood?
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So these are all the aspects of my culture that awarded me. But I think the biggest impact, as far as my culture was concerned, was my auntie Code, Viva Code. And
Mm.
she was part of the Guinea-Bissau Revolution. She was a freedom fighter.
Okay.
She, the FBI came to her door and stuff, and my family thought she was crazy, right? But
Uh-huh.
she, to me, and I think I indoctrinated some of that along with my parents because they were really tough. And I'll tell another story about that. But
Mm.
um, she really just had this whole thing about F the dumb stuff. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just I've said it to keep it clean, but she would like, you know, funky the sugar honey iced tea. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
don't allow BS in your life. And if you see something wrong, stand up for it. And then the other thing that showed me the beauty of the Cape Verdean community is I remember my parents had bought a house on this street called Purchase Street, and all the families, the city wanted to knock down all these houses for eminent domain to build a school.
Okay.
And I'll never forget it. I might have been about 9, and I went to the door, and the city man comes and says, "Sir, I need you to sign this." And my father was like, "Nope, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. You're going to move that school 2 blocks down where all the dilapidated houses are, and you're not going to knock down our houses." And I'm like, "Daddy, that's City Hall." He's like, "Quiet, young lady." Sure enough, that school is 2 blocks down because the community was like, no. So when you grow up and you see that type of infrastructure, that type of strength, you understand we the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is America. We the people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so my culture is everything to me. Everything.
I, I
And
love
I'm
that.
proud of it.
And you know what? You have been dubbed, I've seen that you have been dubbed the comeback queen. So
Yeah.
what is that? Where does that come from? Where did you get that name from?
Well, oh gosh, like remember the roller coaster ride I told you about? Well, at one
Right.
point, my father was dying of cancer. I was getting a divorce, and I became every title that I didn't want to be: a divorcee, a single mother, you know, my father, who I am very much so a daddy's girl, you know what I mean? Like my first love, losing all of that at one time, I tanked
Mm.
and I dealt with depression, and I didn't, life really didn't have any meaning to me. And,
Okay.
through the grace of God, that's why I'm so adamant about that. I was blessed enough to hear his voice and let me understand that you're here for a purpose.
Right.
So get your butt up.
Yeah.
And this is something that's going to teach you more and you're going to learn more. And then because we are a community, you're going to be able to help more. because you're not talking third person, you're talking first person. And I get a little emotional with it because sometimes when I talk about that stage of my life, I also see and hear and feel the many women that are still going through it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so one of my friends that has CEO, I keep on forgetting his name, and I'm so sorry. But he
Okay.
did a program that kind of helped you understand what it means to come back to you, to your life. And
Okay.
so I got the title Comeback Champion, Comeback Queen, because I never stopped. You
Mm,
know, a lot of people thought that I was going to unplug from the matrix, and I was like, no,
absolutely
I'm going to
not.
see the truth
And
for what it is, and I'm going to keep on fighting.
and you came back better than ever, and you came back with one of your books, SheEO versus CEO. So let's talk about that. What inspired you to write that? Was it part of that story, or was it more so?
No, you know, it was really funny. So, after I got out of the music industry, you know, because of everything that was happening in my life, I said, okay, so I'm going to start with what I know. And so I became a youth advocate because I went to school for education. And
Okay.
I was a youth director at the YMCA, and I started seeing a lot of the kids and stuff like that. And then I started getting a little bit more involved in business because I started my consulting firm. And
Okay.
it was really wild because, you know, when we were coming up, you know, there was no question as far as the definition of a woman. There was no, we had roles. We were on the come up. And then
Yeah.
somehow that got twisted around, and I'm standing at the bus stop listening to young girls talk about stuff that they're dealing with, or I'm at a conference and I'm hearing women deal having challenges dealing with men and not being heard and all of this other stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute, whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah.
right? And I had the honor and the privilege, and I'm so thankful for that era of my life where I was a Rough Rider. I was GM of Rough Rider and president of Rough Rider Lifestyles. And
Yeah.
what people didn't understand is the record label was the record label, but Lifestyles was the clothing line, the dog food, the dogs, the bikers, the thug workout, you know what I mean? The producers. It was everything that encompassed the lifestyle, you
Yeah.
know? And so it literally was me and 100 dudes, 200 dudes. So I learned a lot from my brothers, and I love my brothers. Black men are
Yeah.
the most amazing being on this earth, period. And you know, I have a young black man, and I tell him mediocrity is not acceptable because you're preyed
Mm,
on by
yeah.
all. So there's a certain structure, a certain swag that you need to survive. And I learned that from them because I was with them. I was one of the boys.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I learned so much from them, how to deal with them, how to understand them, that I was like, this knowledge really needs to be shared. And God, you know, through the grace of God, I keep saying that because He's the one that brought me to where I am today.
Yeah.
And all of the journeys and challenges that I overcame, it was through His grace. And I thank Him for that. But I was like, okay, God, this is what I got to do. So, shout out to the whole Mena family. We had gone to Dominican Republic for a whole month to hand out toys to the kids for Christmas. And I got a
Mm,
chance to see that lifestyle as well. And I was just totally inspired by it. So I wrote the book on the rooftop of the house that we were staying in. And
mm,
it was just really to let women understand how to position yourself. You know, we're nurturers. We're
yeah.
nurtured a different way than men. So, like, I love to give this example when I do my classes. I'm like, okay, so when a man walks into an office room, that's his office, right?
Mhm.
He sees the
Right.
chair, the desk, and maybe the phone. When a woman walks into the office, that's her office, she sees the chair, the desk, the light, the rug, the you know, the lantern, the
Everything.
accessories, everything. But that yin and yang is why we should be working together cooperatively, because you see things or you get direction because your focus is so linear, right?
Right.
But
Right.
we see options because our focus is so omni. So when you combine the two, it's powerful. And so that's what SheEO versus CEO. It's not about competition. It's about effective communication, knowing
Yeah.
how to communicate with men so that you're heard, and collaborative economics. so that the two of you work together. It's not about gender. And so
Mm,
that's kind of like one of the things. Eradicating gender is one of the purposes I have. Gender bias is one of the
mm.
purposes I have because it's necessary, especially in these times.
Now I know with that it's you have to do a lot of multitasking and you wear so many different hats and you're over here, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. How do you manage all of that? Because I thought I was busy, but I had nothing on you. Absolutely not. How do you manage everything and keep it like, organized?
Well, I mean, that is a daily challenge, but I have great people that support me. That's part of my team. So shout out to them. I love them above and beyond the call of duty. We are family. But I also think that, if you pay attention what God gives you, He's going to give it to you for you to get it done. That's why
Yeah.
He gave it to you. So I always take that attitude. If this is something that's on my plate, it's for me to do. And if I can't delegate it, I have to do it. But if I can delegate it, it's still my responsibility to oversee it, you
Yeah.
know? So some things I can do vicariously through others, and some things I do firsthand. And that's basically how I get it done. I realize that, again, going back to community, you know what I mean? It's establishing a business community, as well as a social community, as well as a cultural community. And within those communities, you have people that can assist you in your endeavors.
Yeah. Now you've worked so much behind the scenes and now you're actually doing some things in the spotlight as well. But which side of the entertainment business would you say you enjoy the most if you had to pick?
Oh, that's difficult because I'm on this artist journey right now and I am loving it. I realize that I am an artist, first of all. And
Mm,
that sounds crazy, but being an executive for so long and an artist advocate, I never really knew where that came from. And then as I became an artist, I realized, oh, I'm an artist advocate because I'm an artist. Right?
yeah.
So of course it's not going to compute with me to take advantage of somebody because innately that's me. I'm taking advantage of me. Like that doesn't make any sense. So I think the best description for me right now is shout out to Paz. He calls me executive talent
Mm,
because once you're groomed to be an executive, you never lose that. That's just part of you. You're taught to see things and visualize things, organize things in a certain manner from an executive standpoint, right?
yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
as an artist, there are no limitations. As an
Wow.
artist, it's this whole free world that I'm just loving. Like,
Yeah.
there's no rules or regulations. You just do and be and just create.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy that as well. Like, I've never had this sense of creative freedom. I mean, executives are creative because we have to be creative in resolving issues, problems, or just planning things, right? But there's boundaries. Like you can't do all of that. But an artist, you can do whatever.
Yeah.
And
But this is
it's
your
okay
own.
because
This is your
yeah,
own. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's so different. Like nobody can tell me what's right or wrong because it's me.
Right.
Whereas in the executive world, there are certain protocols and you can't do certain things. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So
yeah.
to be perfectly honest, the honest answer to that question is I love both equally because both are part of me,
Yeah.
you know? and
Yeah.
I and it's using a different side of my brain that I've
Mm-hmm.
never really like tried to expand. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's I'm enjoying it. From acting to writing poetries to getting into the studio, cultivating music. Yeah,
I
I'm
love
digging
it.
it.
Now
I'm digging it. I'm totally digging
you've earned some major awards like from the White House, the UN. Is there any one award that you just said this is the most special award for me, or one was more personal, or anything like that, or are all of them do all of them just mean something to you?
it. Ugh, that's a tough question and a good question. A tough question because I'm a very humble person. Like I won't recite my resume or that's just not me. I won't tell you all the people I know. That's just not me.
Yeah.
because if I'm dealing with you, I'm dealing with you.
Yeah.
So that's where my focus is, right? So it's wonderful to get these awards. I'm not minimizing it because of the mere fact that it just enables me to take a further step. Like I
Mm.
have a funny story. Like so I love my pins, my Lifetime Achievement Award pin, and as well as my volunteer service award pin, both from the White House. So
Hmm.
I did this community event, community affairs with the police department, because I feel
Okay.
like that relationship really needs to be fostered and understood more. You know, there is definitely some bias, but why is that bias? Does it come from the training? Does it come from the environment? Whatever. So I'm doing more activity just to understand that more, right?
Right.
So the event for Juneteenth was at the police academy in New York. And as I'm walking through, the cadets are saluting me, and I'm like, "What? What is that?" You know what I mean? But I
Right.
was in
Right.
ROTC. Yeah, I was in ROTC, so I figured they probably thought I was some politician or something. So that's why they were saluting. So I kind of snubbed it off. Now we're in the
Yeah.
food line, and one of the cadets are there, and they're saluting me. I'm like, "Why are y'all doing that?" He says, "Because of these pins. They're presidential pins." I said, "Oh." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so, but I got to be honest, you know, some of the awards that I got was, I loved it because of what we did.
Mm.
Like, shout out to Elisa Pratt and the McKinley Clovers. They were a step team. Young, when we first started working with them, they was in middle school.
Hmm.
And then they stepped against gun violence and stopped gun violence in their South Bronx neighborhood for 276 consecutive days because they were babies saying enough is enough.
Yeah.
Because each and every single one of them was affected by it. You know, they would tell stories like they were 4 or 5 years old and they were in the playground and they ran when they heard the gun shots, but their little 4-year-old friend didn't make it.
Wow.
That's trauma at such a young
Yeah.
age. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So this empowered the girls. And what made it so amazing, and this is when I tell my kids, there's no such thing as can't. You just got to learn how. Those girls went on to be on ABC. Shout out to We Day. Wonderful organization. Hope they never end. Um, and they flew the girls to LA, right? And it was so
Hmm.
crazy because Whoopi Goldberg came to the South Bronx to give them their tickets, and like that was mind-boggling,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
And then when we got to LA for the ceremony, right? Allstate gave them $20,000 for them to continue their advocacy. But on top of that, we're
Mm.
seeing Jennifer Aniston say, "Oh, I know you girls. You girls are the McKinley Clovers," or Morgan Freeman saying, "How's my Clovers?" You know, these are inner city girls that are having celebrities that they love and know saying that they know them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's mind boggling. So a lot of the awards we got was because of that. And so for me, it's just a constant reminder of what we did, you
Mm.
know, and that it can be done.
Love it.
And I
Love it.
love saying that story more than the accolades. But they are important. Like I remember when I got Powerful Women in Business, you know, shout out
Mhm.
to the Female Quotient. They sponsored me for that. And it was just humbling to be in the midst of other women that are doing the same thing that you're doing at the level that you're doing it at, and you don't know each other. You know,
Wow.
so that you see there's a bunch of female warriors out here that's really nurturing a new nature for society.
Mm. Mm.
So that
Thank
makes it
you.
very cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, if you could leave one legacy message for the next generation of women, what would that be, you think?
Dare to do you,
Mm.
all of us, man, woman, child, I don't care what nationality, everybody. You know, this is where my religion and my faith, my spiritualism comes into play. We all have a purpose. Our journey is to find out what that is. Our purpose is to find out what our purpose is. Having
Yeah.
a relationship with the Almighty. You know what I mean? No matter what you call it, Buddha, you know, Allah, whatever it is, understand that there's a greater being and that you should be working towards being that greater being. So do you. And don't
Love it.
allow anybody to curtail who you are. Go into
Mm.
the circles that support you, and that support will grow. So but don't stop. Don't stop, because it's not only damaging to you that you never feel whole, but
Mm-hmm.
think about the magnitude of people that you could help, that you didn't help, that are now stuck looking for help because
Yeah.
you didn't fulfill what you were supposed to do.
Mm.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's what keeps me driven.
Yeah.
I think that's what keeps me driven, because there's work to be done out here.
Mm. You said a mouthful on
Major
that.
thing.
You
I know I
said
got
a
all
mouthful.
serious and whatnot.
No, seriously though, but you're telling the truth. Now, I'm a firm believer that no one does things by themselves. And I don't want to put you on the spot. And I know you don't have a you have a laundry list of people that that has been around you, that has helped you, that has walked with you, but your immediate people around you, is there anybody you just want to just give a quick shout out to or
Well,
things like
first, Siobhan, that's my girl. Say what in them
that?
streets. I salute you. She's an amazing being, a go-getter. I just love her.
Yeah,
And then, I got to shout out my team, Lori and Belinda and Chris and Paz and, DR and, just the list is crazy. You know what I mean? But then,
yeah.
my best friend is my mom, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And our relationship, this is why I talk to a lot of young girls, because it was that roller coaster ride. That's life. You know what I'm saying? But
Hmm.
now she's my bestie, and, she's always been that guidance. I love to tell people my father taught me about being a lady, but my mother taught me what it means to be a woman.
Mm, love that.
And there is a big differential between those two.
Mm, mm, mm,
Because
mm.
when you're a woman, there's a sense of knowledge and understanding, but at the same time, quietness, quiet strength
Yeah,
that as a woman you can execute
yeah,
because you are that.
yeah.
And I think that that's what my mom taught me more than anything else. It's
Mm.
just know your value, know your strength, and do you.
That's right. That's right. Now, if someone wanted to get a hold of you or wanted to know more information about you or anything that you have coming up or however, how do they get in touch with you or find out more about you?
Well, it's simple. I tell them, everybody knows me as Amelia Moore, but I switched it to Amelia is More because, there's so many. Amelia has become a popular name. It was never a popular name, but now it's a popular name. And there were other people that were jocking my SEO. Like I'm talking to
Okay.
Google right now about the spaces and metadata because Amelia, there's only one Amelia is More. But what these other people are doing is Amelia space is space more. And then they
Mm.
go on to talk about them.
Yeah.
Cut that out. Cut that out. But so it's very easy, just and it sounds so pretentious, but it's so easy. Like it's the one place you can find everything I do. Just Google Amelia is More, and that's all one word, because I'm
Mhm.
more than what you bargained for, and I'm your host with the most. But it's AMELIAISMORE, not two O's, one O, as in the
Got
real word more. And yeah, you'll see everything. And then it's down right now because I'm getting ready to change it. But well, it's not. You can't buy the book right now because I'm getting ready to change it.
it.
But
Okay.
it's SheEO VSCEO, and SheEO is spelled SHEEO.
Got
Because
it.
we are we are females. I came up with that term. Shout out to Saida. In 1996, we did a book called 96 Ways to Transform Your Business. And we
Okay.
had like about 96 women that were talking about what it is in business and what it means to be a female in business.
Okay.
And as Saida and I were talking, they're all CEOs. But I was like, you know what? They're not CEOs, they're SheEOs. And we birthed SheEO from that day. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And I'm
Yeah.
the type of person, and there's been other CEOs, but they got it from us. But
Okay.
I'm the type of person, when God gives it to you, I believe God gives it to you for you to give it to the world. So I never stressed it. You
Right.
know what I mean? That other people were using it, and I still don't. As long as you recognize that where it came from. You know what I
Right.
mean? And we as women, we need to work on that. We need to work on saluting and celebrating other women that you have learned from. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of empowerment going out here, but they like to make you believe that they're the ones that did it.
Mhm.
And that's the biggest lie as a woman you could ever tell. Because
Mm.
as a nurturer, you're being nurtured when you're young, but then you become the nurturer as you get old. And as you nurture others, you're learning more about you. So that's how you perfect who you are. So
Mm.
why not talk about that lineage? Why not salute that lineage? Because
That's right.
that's going to create that sisterhood that we truly need. We
Mm.
truly need it. And we've relinquished it for
Mm.
whatever reason. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We
Yeah.
relinquished it, but we need to get it back. And that's why I'm loving that I'm seeing a lot more women become big mamas. Like, what you doing?
Uh-huh.
Because for 20 years we didn't do that. We was like,
That's
oh,
true.
that's just the kids. Let them do what they want to do. No. How are they going to learn if you don't nurture
Yeah.
that learning process? You
Yeah.
can't let kids go wild. It doesn't
Mm.
work. They don't. They they learn the wrong things,
Mm.
and there's no
Now,
balance.
before you have, like I said, you have such an amazing story. I'll make sure that everybody finds you on social media. So I'm going to make sure that I have all your social media links and everything down below. But I want to make sure before we go, I always ask my guests this one question, and that's because I am an old school lover. I want to know if you don't mind sharing with us on a personal note your favorite old school song or artist.
That's so hard. That's so hard. You know why? Because each artist, even the artists that I worked with, from DMX to Dougie Fresh, to each of them have their own unique specialness, you
Hmm.
know? And that's what people gravitate to, you know? So
Yeah,
you love artists for different reasons, you know?
yeah.
So if I were to break it down, like I love Dougie because he's the pure entertainer. You
Hmm.
know, I watched them get a hard entertainment group put their pinkies up in the air. And like these were people that just didn't do things like that. You know what I
Right,
mean? And he
right.
had them all up out of their seat putting pinkies in the air. I was like, you're amazing. I love X, and now because he's passed, I say his real name Earl, because he's a person and not just an artist, and we need to understand the whole story of how amazing this being was. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like a lot of people don't understand his journey. Like, I mean, think about it. He was somebody that people used to cross the street because they were in fear of, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then when he became a recording artist, those same people were handing their baby to him.
Mm.
That got to
Yeah.
be mind boggling.
Yeah.
You the same fool that would want to see me behind bars, but now you handing me my baby because I'm reciting songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still
Wow.
who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a biting dog. I don't bark, I bite. But yet you handing me your baby.
Yeah.
Do you
Wow.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a lot of
Yeah.
people don't look at him. So I would definitely have to say, Earl, I mean, the way X would pray was amazing. Like,
Mm.
and he was getting ready to really embark that. Like I remember one of the last um virals he did. He was like, I don't want you to keep on asking me to pray for you. I want you to pray for yourself. Like that was powerful. I
Yeah.
don't know if he knew, you know what I mean? But that was powerful.
Yeah. Wow.
So I would have to say him, but then at the same time, I love the funk. I'm a funketeer.
A
As well
Funketeer.
as a hip hop head, I'm a funketeer. So George Clinton, Bootsy, Parliament, you know, all
Parliament.
them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? George
Yeah.
Duke. Boom, 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 boom. You know, all of these all of these records, Dookie Stick, you
Not
know.
Aqua Boogie. No, we ain't
Yeah,
talking Aqua Boogie.
you know what I mean? Sir knows devoid of funk.
Yeah,
I will never dance. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, you're dancing to him. You know,
right.
all of that I feel is the magic of Black music.
Yeah,
You know, we told our stories and we uplifted our people through that vehicle. And may
yeah,
we never stop. And what's a blessing for me right now is I see the pendulum coming back. And this is not to degrade or, you know, make or minimize the contribution that some of the trap and drill artists have done over the years, but I'm a realist and I'm an honest person, and that did more damage than it did good.
mm,
And, you know, it, there were so many vehicles that predicated that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But I'm glad to see that because our young kids are celebrating and listening to my music. When I was coming up, they're listening to 70s and 80s music, never mind the 90s music. Like
yeah,
they went to the origin of where we took the samples from, you know, and they're listening to the whole records. It's amazing to watch this. So, you know, I do see bands coming back. I do see real good R&B music coming back. And as far as hip hop is concerned, because there to me, there's a line. You know, to me, trap and drill is rap. It's
mm,
not hip hop. Because hip hop, it was about individuality, originality, telling your story, messaging in your music. No biting was the rule.
right.
You know what I mean? And that cookie cutter A&R that's happened to us over the past 20 years has affected us and our creativity. So I'm happy to see DR period coming back, Boot Camp Clip coming back. I mean, Keith Murray coming back. They all got albums. I cannot
Yeah,
wait to hear them all. So
love it.
yeah, it's I kind of answered your question, but I didn't answer your question.
No, you did.
But I guess the best way, because I remember one time we talked before and we were just talking about movies we love. And I guess the best way to understand me is to know that two of my favorite movies are Drop Squad with Spike Lee, but then
Uh-huh.
Breakfast at Tiffany with Audrey Hepburn, you
Love
know?
it.
So
Love it.
that's that block to the boardroom that is so me. That is so me.
Mm,
Because I mean, Catherine Battle, opera singer,
mm.
amazing and
Yeah,
one of my favorite, you know, for what she does. So yeah, I hope I answered that question.
you did. Thank you so much. And thank you for answering that question because I stump people every time I ask that question because they're like, oh my God, I got so many artists, so many things in my head. So thank you. But listen, we're going to let you get back to your work. Um, please, 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 anything you have coming up, anything you'd like to talk about,
Oh,
please
yes.
come back.
So
Oh, go
wait,
ahead.
I definitely want to drop this because I don't know when this is dropping, but because I'm an artist now, shout out to Catherine. That's another person that I need to shout out on my team. Jazz by Jore. July 16th. We're now
Okay.
doing an open mic, but because of my musical background, I had to do it with a twist. So the poets will be reciting their poetry, but then we have musicians improving to them
Nice.
so
Okay.
that there's music in the background while the artist is reciting their poet. And that's at Sugar Mouse in Manhattan, 3rd
Mm.
Avenue between 10th and 11th, 8 to 11 p.m. It's free to come. Got good drinks, good food. You can play pool. You can do all that fun stuff, video games, but you'll also be enlightening your mind, your body, and your soul through the poetry that we're delivering. So,
I
and it's only
love it.
$10 for the artist that want to recite.
Okay. All
And
right.
that's just because I want to teach artists that there's value in what they do and they need to start learning to invest in themselves.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
get away from this free stuff because that's not really how big business works.
Now with that, she just said a mouthful with that one. I love it. But again, thank you so much, Amelia Moore. Please come back and join us again. And listen, guys, we are out of here and we talk to you soon. All
Bye.
right.
And anytime, Miss Avery, you just holler.
We'll do. All righty. Bye bye.